Let's go ahead and get started. Please welcome Director James Gunn. Michael Rooker. Chris Pratt. Zoe Saldana. And we're still looking for Chris Pratt. There's Chris. Vin Diesel.
And there's a free phone for you.
Dave Bautista. And Benicio del Toro.
This is what you guys don't know is that the group of us have not been all together for months until we just stood outside right there. So I'm so emotional right now because I've missed these guys so much, and I luckily got to spend some time with Zoe and Dave last week. But everybody else I haven't been around, and it's just an amazing moment for us, I think.
Let's start off with I'm going to start off with a warm-up question first for you, James. Obviously, these are some fairly unknown characters, even though they exist in the Marvel comic universe. What attracted you to the project to begin with, and was bringing new characters like this a daunting task, or was it liberating? What can you tell us about that?
It was frankly liberating. It was, for me, I think I would have had a harder time trying to fit into the regular, Marvel scheme of things. And this gave me a chance to take what I loved about Marvel movies and Marvel comics and create a whole new universe, which is really, what has been the most exciting thing for me, in my entire professional career. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with the different planets in the solar system. And I used to create for every single planet a different alien race with a certain kind of pet and a certain kind of house and a certain kind of water system and everything. And I would draw these pictures, and I had hundreds of these pictures and had them in a box. And really, to me, this is like going back to that childhood box and creating this fun universe.
Great, thank you. Right in front.
My question's for Vin. Vin, did you ever have to do the acting exercise Be a Tree, where the teacher asks you to play a tree? And did that pay off now that you are actually playing a tree?
The phobias, the nightmares. When I was a child actor, yes, I had the fear that I was going to be cast as the tree. And this was a way to face my fears head on, and I'm delighted that I did.
Front center.
Hello. Awesome. My question is from Michael. So, who's more of a badass, Meryl or Yondu?
That's a simple question. You get a simple question, you get a simple answer, rather. And you know what? There's so much. They're very similar in their nature. They're true believers in tough love. Merle with his brother, and Yondu with his lovely son. Surrogate, okay, surrogate daddy, okay, I'll put it that way. You missed me, huh, didn't you?
I did miss you. I missed you so much.
You know what? I will answer your question, and I'll make it real quick. You know what? I'm always. You saw the movie, right? Did you see the movie? Yeah. Yondu is pretty damn powerful. Merle inside, close inside, maybe you gotta go with Merle, but Yondu. I mean, I don't think Yondu let Merle get close to him. You bet.
Front on the left.
Hi, congratulations to everybody on the film. It's great. Chris, you've had your fair share of having to gain and lose weight for parts recently. Do you relate to your female colleagues and what they go through with media scrutiny?
Do you mean like, are you saying that I might be responsible for giving men body image issues? Because if that's what you're saying, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said. No, I'm sure I can't relate to what females go through in Hollywood. You know, I'm sure I can't relate, but I do know what it feels like to eat emotionally, and to be sad and make yourself happy with food, and then be almost immediately again sad and now ashamed, and then to try to hide those feelings with more food. I know what that's like, and it's a vicious cycle, and it's a very real thing, and you know, so I know what it's like to have body image issues, and I also know that if you just work hard and, you know, enlist the help of good coaches and be coachable and be willing to work hard, you can actually change that. And I offer a course. It's like $4,500 up front, and anyone who's, you know, has these issues, just get a hold of my people and we'll set it up, and I'll walk you through it. I don't really offer a course. It's
In the front right corner.
Chris, could you talk a little bit about first finding the attitude to play this guy? You know, he's got to be snarky enough that you know that it works for the character, but not too much you turn off the audience. And did you do any research as far as the comics are concerned to sort of see how it sort of played out in the comics?
You know, I was aware of Guardians of the Galaxy, but James told me not to read any of them, and so.
You keep saying that. Wait a second. You overheard me tell him not to read the comics because he's insane.
I read them anyway.
You know, in terms of the attitude, that was something that, like, you know, and kind of the whole process for me on this one was just trusting James, really, and taking big swings and sometimes falling flat on my face, and just like, the big challenge for me was just trying to ignore the embarrassment of being an actor. It's a pretty embarrassing thing to do. You got people pointing cameras at you and hundreds of people watching you as you're trying to be great, and often, almost every time, you're not. And then there's one moment where you are, and the editor will dig through all the to find it and then put it in the movie. You know, so the challenge is not like finding the attitude. It's really just like being open and willing to go for it and try different things and trust and having a director that you can trust. And so the attitude is not something that I intended or created. It's something James intended and created by getting me to try different things. And so that's really what that was about.
Oh, but you had, I mean,
Wow.
you created that attitude. That's like, you took a character.
How did you do that? How did you do that?
It's a gift. No, I don't know. I'm gonna get better at this. I've never done this that much. So acting is something I've learned how to do through trial and error, you know, and I'm sure press conferences will do the same thing.
Here on the left.
Hi guys, congratulations on this. Fantastic job by everyone. And another question, Chris, you're just so perfect in this role. I'm wondering, and also,
you're right.
Wetland. Exactly. You're getting better at this already. You may not be who everyone imagines taking on a huge superhero movie role like this, and maybe you even felt that way about yourself. So I'm wondering what you felt you had to prove just even in the auditions and for audiences. And James, maybe you want to jump in as well.
I guess people probably didn't see me. I'm not sure I even saw myself in this kind of a role. But what's really kind of nice about this movie, and I believe this, is that we did something with this movie that's never been done before. I think this is like unlike anything that's ever been done, and I think anyone who has seen this movie would agree. I've never seen anything like this movie before, and so I don't think I was right to do anything that's, you know, similar to what's been done before. Like, you know, I wouldn't have been right to do to do other movies. So maybe people wouldn't have seen me in this role, but that's because they weren't able to have the vision that kind of James had for what this could be, you know? And so he just told me in the audition, he was like, I'm just looking for someone to come in and just own this and just do their thing. And at the time, I'd been sort of having an identity crisis as an actor. I didn't know what I was, if I was a action guy, you know, or a comedy guy. And I thought maybe I could do a combination of both, but there's nothing out there that's like it. Maybe I have to develop something. And my manager just kept saying, Guardians of the Galaxy, man. I said, all right, maybe you're right. Let's go meet on it, you know. And then James said, I just want somebody to do their thing. And part of me thought, okay, well then I'll just do my thing, and if it's not right, that's okay. But now I had an idea what that thing was, and it was the thing that I got to do in this movie.
We had screen tested at least 20 people, actually screen tested at least 20 people of all, you know, big stars, you know, no names, looking for the right person, because I really wanted somebody who could embody this character and take it beyond what was on the page, in the same way Robert Downey Jr. did for Iron Man, essentially. And nobody blew me away. Plenty of people were really good, maybe even people were great, but nobody blew me away. And Sarah Finn, our casting director, really deserves the credit for Chris in a lot of ways, because she kept putting his picture in front of me and saying, you know, what about this guy? Why don't you meet with him? And I was like, the chubby guy from Parks and Rec? You're stupid, you know? And she kept doing it, and finally she like really, I don't remember her ever agreeing to see Chris. I just remember her saying, okay, and after this guy, you know, Chris Pratt's here, and I was like, and I was a little mad. I was like, I thought I didn't want to see him, but, you know, and then Chris came in, and, you know, he started to read, and this is 100% true, that within 20 seconds, I was like, holy shit, that's the guy, that's who we've been looking for. He had this thing that was himself, and sometimes a role and a person are meant for each other, and that's what I felt this was. And I turned around to Sarah Finn, who was sitting behind me, and I'm like, he's the guy. And I'm like, chubby or not, if he's chubby, the world's gonna have to be ready for the first chubby superhero, because he's still gonna be better than all the other people we had.
All the way in the back corner.
This question's for James. The movie's very action-packed and very funny, but it's also got a lot of heart.
Thank you.
Can you talk? You're welcome. Can you talk a lot about, or can you talk a little bit about your inspiration behind the emotional journey that you took the characters through and exposing their vulnerabilities?
You know, honestly, it's just that. Well, first of all, to me, what the movie is about a couple of things. Number one, the movie's about a son's relationship to his mother and how it manifests itself throughout the rest of his life. And that, to me, is an emotional thing. The second thing is, the movie, you know, we live in a world where everybody's supposed to be cool and act tough and put up fronts, and everybody's so cynical, and there's a cool contest on the internet who can be the most, you know, snarky and whatever. And this movie is about actually allowing yourself to care, allowing yourself to give it. And so that's a naturally emotional thing for me. And then thirdly, I fell in love with these characters as I was making the movie. I fell in love with these actors as I was making it. And I think that just my natural sort of sensitivity to that, to characters, to people, to emotions, is just something that automatically was expressed within the film. It's a film about family.
And then we're right there in the middle.
James, the music plays such an important part in the film, and I think a lesser filmmaker would have just tacked on these songs that he wanted to hear in his film, but you found a way to make them organic and spring from character and story. Tell me about that process and then having that light bulb to make it work within the context of the story.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, when I started writing the script, there was a script before my script, and then it didn't 100%, speak to me, so I wanted to make some pretty major changes, and I rewrote the whole script, and the very first thing that I thought of was this idea of the Walkman and the cassette tape, which is really this character's connection to his home planet of Earth. And that was the emotional center of the film. If the MacGuffin of the film is this orb that everyone's chasing after, the emotional center is this Walkman. And so it was just a natural part of the screenwriting process. All those songs that you see in the movie, Hooked on a Feeling, Redbone, Come and Get Your Love, were all written into the film. They're all part of the screenplay. So they were there from the ground floor up.
The red shirt?
Yes, hi. This is for Miss Saldana. First, I wanted to say, Van and Mike down at the archery range told me to say hello and give you their best and tell you should come down and shoot with us sometime.
I'm there.
Anytime. Speaking of which, the thing that came to my mind is Gamora and Neytiri are both badasses, but other than that, they're practically opposites. Can you compare and contrast the two and your approach to them?
I feel they're very different. Neytiri grew up in a household where she was loved and she was held as a child. Gamora was taken, sort of like the Lost Boys of the Sudan. She was taken from her village, from her planet, and forced into a life of violence and crime. So there's this pain that follows her wherever she goes, but there's this last hope that she has that she can possibly get away. So I did try to find some similarities between them, but I don't think they would play together in a playground. Gamora's a hustler. Neytiri doesn't even know how to lie. And I wanted her fighting technique to be very, very different. Obviously, when you show up and you're sort of like the last person cast and everybody's just ready to go, the stunt coordinators have already designed the fights and they already have the stunt women working on what you're going to do, and you sort of come in and you just add your last little tweaks. And I just didn't want Gamora to look like any typical action person that's just like very martial artsy and just does those underworld jumps and lands and the ground breaks. I wanted her to be a little more graceful and antique, very, very classy in the way that she fights. And my husband, one of his colleagues, was showing us, as I was sort of doing research for Gamora, she was showing us her last collection of work that she was going to do that wasn't yet ready for the public. But it's she basically recorded this bullfighter from Spain dancing a duel, a fight, and sort of leading the bull with his sword and his cape. And she shot it at super 60, but not super 60, at 60, like 60 frames per second. So it's very slow, and I've never seen somebody move so smoothly. And it was just such a seductive dance, and I thought, well, that's Gamora. She's a woman, and she just has to be very seductive in the way that she tricks her enemy into falling into their own death. And I thought, well, that'll be interesting too. I've never done that. So when I told that to James, he thought, oh yeah, go for it. It was hard telling the stunt people because they're so hard and they think that girls are stupid. So when you walk in to this testosterone-driven rehearsal place, and you're like, well, she does fencing and she's a bullfighter. They're kind of like, quoi? But they realized they didn't really have a choice, and they adapted it.
I remember I got like 5 messages from you on different platforms when you came up with this bullfighting idea at 3 a.m. It was like on one phone I got a message, and I got a message from another phone to my other phone, then I got a message to one email, and then another email, and then DM on Twitter, and I'm like, I get it, she wants to be a bullfighter.
Sort of a similar question for Benicio. You played obviously a lot of great characters, but the Collector's kind of an unusual character. How did you approach that? Like nothing else you've ever played, right?
Right. Well, the hair for sure. How did I go about it? James kind of made me feel like I could explore it. I got there and I worked with 4 actors. 2 of them weren't there. So I had a lot of fun with Chris and Zoe, and what I do remember was I felt like I could explore the character in every way I would have wanted to, and James was very supportive to taking chances and trying different things, and I felt like an animal that grows up in a cage, and suddenly you open the door and he comes out and he's tentative to take chances, and James was very great, very nice to me to allow me to go, and so at the end I was like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, but it was a great feeling, yeah.
Benicio was Benicio knows this. He's one of my favorite actors in the world, and so I was so excited when he did this. But one of my favorite moments on the whole movie is when Benicio came into my office when you were first visiting for your fitting, and you sat down with me, and we were talking about the character and how we saw the character and where we were coming from. And you go to me and you go, when I think about it, I think about When I was a little kid, I was the first kid in my neighborhood to have a pet alligator. And I was like, oh, this guy's my friend for life. This is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
In the center.
Thank you, Jay.
For Chris and Zoe, can you talk a little about the physicality of the role and preparing for the fight scenes, performing the fight scenes? Zoe, you looked like you were in the shape of your life. Were you all ready, or did you step up the training?
Actually, I stepped down from the training. I've done so many action movies, and I was sort of looking at last summer thinking, oh my God, I'm in love, and I just want to chill and go to Italy and eat pasta. And then all of a sudden James calls, and he's like, hey, you want to be in Guardians and be green, work 6-day weeks for 5-hour sessions of makeup, and yeah, be an alien again. I'm like, oh. So then I did it, but the training process, after I kind of figured out what she was going to be spiritually, there's muscle memory and all the things that I've done in the past 7 or 8 years. So I was able to kind of relax with my body and work with the stunt coordinators, but not excessively like I've done on other films. And I remember it was really funny because Chris was like, I know that you're very, you're very stunty and you're very agile and everything. So, just be yourself, just go with it, whatever. And I remember around the 3rd take, he's like, no, just take it easy on that. Maybe just, there's your mark, baby. Just stand on your mark. Don't go a little over, because when you kick me, that heels a little.
It hurts. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, she acted really good a lot of times. She can knock you out. I can guarantee you, she can knock just about anybody out. She got that serious. You're a real athlete. She's got a very strong kick.
Yeah.
She's not even afraid to use it too.
Dude, you're always saying harder, a little harder.
No, I did you what?
No.
It was like he punched me so hard twice in the movie that I don't even know if it made the movie.
That wasn't even hard.
It was so hard. I felt my organs shake.
Yeah, you were all bruised the next day.
Through this pad, I had Rooker knuckle prints on my ribs. But you know what? I tell you, it was the best acting I've ever done.
There you go.
That hurt.
My favorite Rooker and Chris kind of hit it off immediately, and we had the 3 of us would hang out a lot at my house in London, and they came and they sat down, and this was when they first met each other, and they started talking about all these things that they have in common. They're both a couple of hicks and shoot and stuff like that, and so they're sitting there and talking. They're really getting along, and Chris is this wide-eyed kid, and he's like, we had to go and hang out and get to know each other in that father-son way, so that we can bring that into the movie. We got to go and hang out like that. And Rooker goes, no.
And that planted the seeds. I was like, oh.
My daddy doesn't love me.
In the front corner.
Well, guys, I gotta say, the Guardians go for the gusto and they succeed on every level. Great job. But I gotta pose a question here to the boys at the end, to Vin, Dave, and Benicio. Vin, you've been part of a very successful franchise. Dave, Benicio, you're coming in to a new universe, and this is a new universe for you too, Vin, the Marvel Universe. What is the appeal of the Marvel Universe, and particularly this new offshoot, Guardians of the Galaxy?
I think I didn't look at it so much as the Marvel thing. I was very familiar with Marvel, obviously, and of course I realized they had a winning formula and the movies were very well done. But I really looked at it as something new and completely on its own, because it was just original and fresh. And also I looked at it from strictly the standpoint of Drax, because once I realized who Drax was and how much of an emotional roller coaster his character would be, I just kind of fell in love.
And what about for Vin and Benicio?
I've done a lot of movies. You never know. You really never know. You can do a movie, you think it's great, and then you see it and it doesn't work, and this is something that is the opposite. This is a movie that I loved working with everyone, and then the final product was like a great movie that I really enjoyed. And I saw myself as the character of Chris, even though I'm the collector. But I got pulled in, you know, and I got pulled in, and I think the credit is to everyone involved and James, because he just really did an emotional thing. It just, you know, I told James, he hit me on every sense. I even felt hungry in the movie, even though no one eats. I mean, all the senses were tapped, and I really enjoyed it. I really, really did. So you never know. You never know. You do movies, and I'm very happy to be in a good movie. Any actor will say the same thing. You're really happy to be in a good movie. So, so that's my feeling on it, and you know.
And yeah, I'm new to Marvel. I guess this whole thing started for me with a kind of a social media wave that was adamant about me doing something with Marvel. And there wasn't really a 6-month window to do a character at Marvel. So when Kevin Feige called me and said that him and James were talking about me playing a role, I had no idea what role it would be. And they sent over a book of conceptual art, and I went into my living room with my kids, and I opened up the book, and I asked the kids what character they thought they wanted Daddy to play. And they all pointed at the tree. And I knew that was a good sign. For me, it was at a very important time when I did this movie, because it was in December. It was the first time I was coming around humans again, and the first time I was working again. And there was something very therapeutic about, in my personal life, I guess in my professional life too, dealing with death and then playing a character that celebrates life in the way that Groot celebrates life. I took my kids to a screening to see this movie, and they walk around the house reciting Star-Lord, Gamora, all the characters, and something very beautiful happened in playing this role. Something that, as an actor, I never would have imagined. And that is when my kids see trees, they refer to the trees as my brothers and sisters. And so they'll say, "Look, Daddy, it's your brother and sisters." And the idea to be associated with trees like that is remarkable. It's so much more gratifying than you would ever imagine. It was, I was really lucky. I was really lucky that that specific role came up. I was really, really, really lucky that when I went to breathe life into the role, I had a director that was willing to indulge in the way that he did. I felt like I was the last person in, so I got to see all of the performances, and I was so blown away by the performances. It felt almost too good to be true. And then while I was recording the 3 words, day in and day out, we started one day, ended up 4 days. James actually, it would be wild to actually see my script, because I don't think anyone's seen my script. It was, on the left-hand side of the page, it said, "I am Groot." And then on the right-hand side of the page, it could be a whole paragraph about what "I am Groot" meant. So when I walked into that situation and I saw somebody that cared so much about every little nuance of that character, it was so refreshing for somebody that didn't think that being a perfectionist was a bad thing. It was so refreshing. And unfortunately now in Hollywood, there are those directors that have some contempt for actors. We've all experienced it in one way or another. To have a director that loves his actors is something that you can see in the film, the fruits of that labor. You can see that translated in the film. And when you watch this movie, you can see a director who loves his actors. And it shines through the movie in my mind, and in my eyes. Did I answer the question?
Right on.
I'll just say real quick that you guys, no one will ever understand from the bottom of my heart how much Vin Diesel, brings to that role. Because I sat and watched the movie 1 billion times with my voice in there, my brother Sean's voice in there, and when he came in and said, "I am Groot," it really filled out that whole character, and it's really quite incredible. Like the Fred Raskin, the editor, and I couldn't believe it when we started cutting it in, because it made that character that was a CGI character suddenly complete, and it still doesn't sound like Vin to me. It sounds like Groot, and there was a weird sort of like strange energy in the room when he was doing it, and I think a lot of people have felt it through seeing the movie that Groot is this emotional character, and we even felt it while we were shooting. But I'm really eternally, grateful for that performance and a little freaked out by it.
In the center here on the left.
Congratulations to everyone, great job. I can see this film another 5-7 times, I don't mind. For James and Chris, James, can you share with us about the Kevin Bacon reference? And Chris, are you a big Kevin Bacon fan?
That reference, like some of the most fun moments in the movie, and Chris and I were talking about this on the phone the other day. Chris and I have a very similar sense of humor, and when you're on set with me and Chris, it really is one long bit. But a lot of the funniest moments in the movie were things that one of us started off, and then the other one added to, and then the other one built on that. And the Kevin Bacon thing was that. Chris came in and he said, "What if he thinks of Footloose is a legend, And I said, "Oh shit, that's funny." And I started laughing, and sometimes he would come in with some ideas that weren't so funny. But that time he came in with this idea that was really funny, and and then I added the Kevin Bacon aspect to it, and then he added something else, and then we added the part with the Zoe Kevin Bacon. Oh, the sticks up in my butt. Yeah. And so it was just one of those moments, and I happened to be friendly with Kevin because he was in my last movie, and I don't think he knows yet that he's in there. So I've been really excited for him to see it.
Yeah, that sums it up. It's true. Yeah, we have a sick sense of humor. The kind of sense of humor that, like, if someone were a fly on the wall, they would think that we were maybe mass murderers or something.
Yeah. There was one time when I remember you said something, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's too much for me."
That was too much for him. I was like, "I did it!
Oh my god!"
It took 4 months, but I finally pushed it too far.
Yes. I've been trying that for 9 years now.
Oh, you've been too much for me from the beginning, Rooker.
And I'm afraid this has to be the last question here on the right.
Yeah, hi. I would like to know about the music. They mentioned the music before, but what is your favorite song? I mean, maybe each one could say something about the favorite song of the movie, and what kind of music do you specifically like besides this one?
My favorite, listen, one of my favorite songs of all time is "I Want You Back" by the Jackson 5, which is in the movie. My favorite song in the movie, strangely, is "Come and Get Your Love" by Redbone, which I really think is when the whole idea of the mixtape started cementing for me. So that's my favorite. Rooker doesn't know any names of songs.
I don't know the music.
He doesn't know the names of his kids.
I do too. Yeah, never mind.
James, that was one of the first things I requested, I think, because I was like, "Hey man, because it is such the emotional center of the character and of the movie, this tape, and if Peter Quill has been listening to this thing non-stop his entire life, I have a few albums like that in my life that, like, I know all the words to every one of them, so I wanted to be that familiar with the music by the time we shot the movie, and so I had him send it to me, and while I was working out, I just listened to it on in order on repeat over and over this album. So some of the songs I really love and some I really fucking hate because I've heard so many times. And then I incorporate like sweating on a Stairmaster to like, you know, if you want pina coladas, I was like, oh, but one song that really worked for me was that Ooh Child. That one, that was like, that has a beats per minute that's perfect for my running pace. So when I was running and that song came on, it put me at a 9-minute mile, which at the time was like my mile. I'm like, Ooh Child. I'm like, oh, finally, this song, I don't have to listen to the Margarita song again, or Pina Coladas or whatever. So, Ooh Child. I think that's what it's called.
For me, it's Cherry Bomb, because I was such a fan of the Runaways, and right there, you know, in the montage when they're finally getting like their courage, like their chutzpah to do something about it, to do something to save the day and save Xandar, that's just such a great song for them to kind of, you know, prepping up the Motley Crue. So I thought it was Cherry Bomb.
I loved all the music. I had so much fun with the music. I thought it was such a testament to the movie. It's so, I mean, you could almost, this is the closest Marvel will ever get to a musical. It was that much fun for me. The movie starts with kind of an emotional tone, and very quickly, the music and watching Star-Lord kicking aliens makes you feel like you're going to be covered, makes you feel like you're going to have a really good time. The music, I'm singing the music every day. So most of the time when I walk into an interview, I start singing, Hooked on a Feeling. The coolest thing was my 3-year-old son watching the movie, and when Hooked on a Feeling comes on, he was at the edge of his seat, and I'm watching. It's the first time he's ever gone to a movie. We've ever gone to a movie together. Obviously, he can't see Riddick or any of those other movies. So he kind of scoots to the edge of his seat, and he squints his eyes like this, and he starts singing. Hooked on a feeling, I believe. And watching him do that just melted my heart. So we listened to the songs at home. My daughter's going, ooh, baby, give me one more. It's remarkable how a soundtrack can be so important to the storytelling, so important to the experience. And someone back there said, I saw the movie and I'm going to see it 6 and 7 times. I think the music is going to make people see this movie a lot. I think the music's going to make you want to go. You have so much fun in the movie, and it's music that you want to share with your kids anyway. And it's great because of that. So I love all the songs. I love Come Get Your Love. I just thought it was an incredible collection. I wanted Peter Quill's soundtrack.
And I hate answering this question after Vin, because anything I say is going to sound boring. And I don't have a story, I can't sing, I don't have any kids to talk about. Anyway, my favorite song from the film, I think it's ABC, I Want You Back.
I Want You Back, yeah.
But actually my favorite song in the film is Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and I think it's just because where it is. It's such a feel-good song to begin with, but also in the scene, it's such a feel-good scene. We finally come together and we're a family. We've all found each other, and we survived, and we're kind of, out to find some other trouble to get into. It's just such a feel-good moment, and the song just fits perfectly.
Yeah, I like them all. There's a Bowie tune there.
Yeah, Moon Age
Daydream.
Daydream. Yeah.
Like that one too. I think you introduced the collector with that one.
Yeah, that's true. Nowhere we didn't.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.